In Lesson 8-7, you will solve inequalities by adding or subtracting from both sides. Solving an inequality is very similar to solving an equation. You are still going to draw the train tracks, and you're going to always do the same thing to both sides to isolate the variable. The only difference is instead of having an equal sign, you're going to have an inequality symbol in your answer. And instead of the solution being a single number, it's going to be a group of numbers that are either greater than or less than a certain number. So to solve n minus 8 is less than 15, we're going to get n by itself by adding 8 to both sides. So we're getting rid of that minus 8 by adding 8. So then this is going to disappear, and you have n is less than 15 plus 8, which is going to be 23. So our solution is all the numbers n that are less than 23. To check your solution, I would do two things to check it. I would first check to make sure that the 23 is the right number by thinking about this like it were an equation with an equal sign. So if I plug in 23 for n, does 23 minus 8 equal 15? 23 minus 8 is 15, and 15 equals 15. So I know I have this number correct. And then the second thing I would check is I would choose a number less than 23. I don't know, maybe 0. That's an easy one to check. 0 is less than 23. If I plug in 0, is 0 minus 8 less than 15? Well, 0 minus 8 is negative 8, and negative 8 is less than 15. So therefore, I know that I have this number correct, and I know I have the symbol correct. So we know that the numbers less than 23 is the solution to this inequality. So any number that's less than 23, if I plugged it in for n, it would make this a true statement. All right, let's try the next one. Draw your train tracks. Now to get a by itself, I'm going to get rid of this plus 7 by subtracting 7 from both sides. Negative 4 take away 7, or negative 4 plus a negative 7 is a negative 11, is greater than or equal to. This is going to end up disappearing, and I'm left with just a. Now, one thing that I would do if my variable is on the right instead of the left, I would write my answer with the variable on the left, the number on the right, and then it's pointing at the a, so we want to make sure it's still pointing at the a when we rewrite it. So I think it's the numbers that are less than or equal to negative 11. So to check that, I'm going to first think of it as an equation with an equal sign. Is negative 4 equal to a negative 11 plus 7? Well, negative 11 plus 7 is negative 4, and negative 4 equals negative 4, so I know this number is correct. Now I need to check to make sure I have the correct symbol. I'm going to choose a number that's less than a negative 11. Let's choose, how about negative 12 is smaller than negative 11. So if I plug in negative 12, I have negative 4 is greater than or equal to negative 12 plus 7. Well, negative 12 plus 7 is negative 5, and negative 4 is greater than or equal to negative 5. Remember, with negative numbers, it's the opposite of what you would think. A negative 4 is greater than a negative 5. So that is true. So therefore, I know I have the correct answer when I say the numbers less than or equal to negative 11. You may want to pause the video and try these next two on your own. To get t by itself, you're going to get rid of the plus 3 by subtracting 3 from both sides. So you end up with t is greater than 9. So the answer is all the numbers t that are greater than 9. Now you can check that on your own. I'm going to just move on to the next problem. To get n by itself, I'm going to get rid of this plus 1/2 by subtracting 1/2 from both sides. So this plus 1/2 minus 1/2 is going to be gone. So I have just n is greater than or equal to 4 take away a half, which is 3 1/2. And again, you can test this out by plugging that back in to see if it equals 4, and then choose a number greater than 3 1/2, such as 4, and that should work as well. Our last two examples are word problems. Number 3 says the Airbus A380 can seat up to 853 passengers. Suppose there are currently 632 passengers boarded on the plane. Which inequality indicates how many more people are able to board? Well, let's start out by writing an inequality and solving it. If there's 632 passengers on board right now, and then we want to know how many more passengers we can add to that, if it can seat up to 853, that means the total passengers needs to be less than or equal to 853. Now to solve this for P, you would subtract 632 from both sides to get rid of the 632. And you would end up with P is less than or equal to 221. So the number of passengers, like how many more people are able to board, needs to be less than or equal to 221, or choice C. Now this last one sounds really complicated, but if you slow down and think about it, it's really not too bad. A tornado is classified using the Fujita Tornado Damage Scale, the F scale. An F1 tornado has wind speeds that are at least 73 miles per hour. An F2 tornado has wind speeds that are at least 113 miles per hour. Which inequality indicates how much the winds of an F1 tornado needs to increase so it becomes at least an F2 tornado? Well, if an F1 is at least 73, we're going to add to that an increase of how many miles per hour so that it becomes at least an F2, which means the wind speeds would have to be at least 113, or greater than or equal to 113 miles per hour. Now to solve this for x, you would subtract 73 from both sides. And you get x, or the wind speeds, would need to be increased by at least 40. So it would have to be x is greater than or equal to 40, or choice F.